Ladies and gentlemen, I am SidAlpha, and it's been a while since I did a proper review, and I've been thinking for a while that we're about due for one, so I decided that this would be an interesting little foray back into bygone times when the vast majority of content on my channel was reviews. It's something that I've sorely missed for a while now, and it's also something that I really am looking to get back into. Now, in the interests of full disclosure, I have covered the actions of the game's developer, Richard La Ruina, in the past after he filed a spurious DMCA strike against friend and fellow YouTuber IamPattyJack due to good old PattyJack's unkind impressions within his review of the first Super Seducer game, a game that I personally felt to be nothing more than a cringeworthy multiple-choice FMV title. But in spite of all of that, I wanted to see if Richard La Ruina had learned anything, and if this second entry was a gigantic cringe fest just like the first one, so I decided to lay my spurious DMCA axe in the corner unsharpened and give this title an honest bash. After all, if you hold a grudge forever, then it isn't exactly the happiest way to live one's life. So the burning question for me was, is this still a cringe fest? And the answer to that, well, yes, and at the same time, no. Now, this won't be an overly long review, as the game is not in any way complex, so much so to the point that it can be called a video game under only the loosest of interpretations. It has obstacles to overcome in the form of making the right or wrong decisions, it has a failure state insofar as you can make wrong decisions, and it has a resolution, which is the culmination of each chapter and how you answer the questions. And I know that there are a good number of people that think a title like this simply should not exist based upon their own moral principles alone, and that's fine. I, however, find myself to be mildly intrigued to see what the developers can come up with in these scenarios. I'm also quite aware that some of you will be a bit disappointed that this game will be my first foray back into game reviews for what seems like an eternity, but don't worry, there are reviews of other games being planned. That said, let's get started, shall we? And as I do this with every game review, let's start off with the options menu. The options menu is, as you might expect, pretty bare bones, which is really not a surprise. There aren't any real graphical effects within the game, and it is nothing more than a series of FMV clips with multiple choice screens. As such, it really doesn't need anything else. I mean, what would a purely FMV game do with ambient occlusion or anti-aliasing? Nothing, really. So while the options menu is uninspired, it is that way because that's all it really needs, which I think is perfectly fine. So on to the game itself, and this is Super Seducer 2. It is, as I've said, a full-motion video game developed by Richard La Ruina, and it is basically exactly what it is advertised as. You play through the game's 9 chapters that place you in various scenarios where you attempt to pick up women. It's fairly straightforward with what seems to be the common sense approach, usually being the correct one, and the games take on some fairly ridiculous results when you choose the wrong path. The game does also, as many people are already quite aware, take a dig at several of the critics of the first Super Seducer game, including IamPattyJack, ProJared, and Jim Sterling, where if you choose the option to blow them up, you receive a special award in the game. And I'm going to go ahead and play that clip for you now. Some people find La Ruina's actions here to be somewhat petty, but I personally found it to be hilarious, although a bit insulting that I wasn't on the list of people that Richard La Ruina included in his little ball of hatred.
Lottie, I hate to do this, but I've got something really urgent, so it's lovely to meet you and all that, but I've got to go.
Right,
Bye.
God, how rude. Waitress?
Hey buddy, what's so urgent?
There is a YouTube convention, my friend, and now is your chance.
Ooh, who's there exactly?
The vice journalists,
Great.
PattyJack,
Awesome, perfect.
Boogie,
He's quite likable.
Tim Sterling,
Fucking prick.
Alpha Rad, friend without benefits.
I like those guys too.
There is also the Mini Minter.
Nah, he didn't answer my email, so whatever. Anyone else?
Bro Jared,
Let's fucking do this. Lisa, bring me my special briefcase. Die, you fuckers!
The game itself isn't, as I said, overly inspired. Each of the 9 chapters presents you with, on average, 10 or so multiple choice sections that, depending on your choices, can end in either failure, a partial success, or what is known as being friend-zoned in some areas, or getting the girl's number or the date as a total win. Every time a choice is made, you're told whether it is a right or wrong answer, and for most of the choices, they are also accompanied with a brief explanation as to why. It's also worth noting that it would seem that Richard La Ruina decided to include a female counterpart to explain some of the choices from the woman's perspective, which seems to be an attempt at making the game seem more educational and informative. But in that, there is a clear and very present cognitive dissonance within the game in that regard. At first, it seems to be attempting to be what it is advertised as, a game that helps instill confidence and teach men how to act towards women in order to be able to be more successful at dating. However, most of the quote wrong choices ends up in a very pervy style sequence that really starts to wear on you very quickly. In addition to that, there does seem to be a lot of pettiness and salt oozing through the game itself, with a missile strike against the first game's critics, digs at people that play games on Steam, and also digs at Twitch streamers, and one dig at the critic of the now infamous Cuphead tutorial sequence.
Alright guys, got Cuphead today. Heard it's difficult, but obviously not for a legend like me. Jump, jump, jump. What's this? Okay, it's quite a big jump. Hold for a high jump, hold for a high jump. High jump, 1, 2. Alright, bear with it guys. Missile, thanks for the donation. Alright, let's get on this. No, that doesn't work. Alright, okay, try that, no. Maybe it'll fall down if I just keep jumping. Just keep jumping, double jump. Okay, from here it's definitely gonna work. Aye. Fucking shit, huh? Oh, lol, what's funny? It's not funny. This is not easy, guys. It's a hard game. Haven't you heard? I'll get it. Don't worry, I'll get it. I didn't die at least. Alright. Ready? 1, 2. Ah! Piece of shit game, yeah? John Tag. You are shit at games. Alright, John Tag. I'll tell you what. I'm shit at games. Maybe I'm shit at games because I spend all my time fucking your mum. And that's why I'm shit at Cuphead. Yeah, how about that?
He's got a gun.
And while that sort of thing can be pretty funny, it does create a weird imbalance in the game that just ends up feeling awkward and slightly unpleasant. And with a game like this, I actually have to throw my standard review format out of the window, as most of it really isn't relevant to a full FMV game. Graphics? Well, they did use an HD camera, so there's that. The stability? Again, it really doesn't apply in this scenario all that much. The videos ran smoothly and the game didn't crash, which is about all you can expect from an FMV game. But one large aspect of the game that I do want to focus on is the concept of most games that I feel is very important, and that is the replayability factor. And in that, again, I think it's very hit and miss here with Super Seducer 2. The replayability factor within this game comes from a person wanting to go through and actually watch all of the failure state options to be able to see all of the ridiculous antics, but watching Richard La Ruina perv out on some girl isn't exactly what I would think of when discussing the topic of enjoyable experience. The game did dial back on the cringe somewhat, but realistically those failure states don't serve to educate a person as the game implies that it is trying to do by analyzing the wrong choices, so they actually do more to take away from the game than add to it. Also, as this is an FMV game, I feel like the acting is a key feature that should be talked about. The acting itself is, again, very hit and miss here as well, but in many areas it just comes from the fact that the timing just felt off, and when dealing with a subject like this, when it doesn't feel natural, then it just ends up feeling uncomfortable, and as that is the case, I really did not have an enjoyable experience with this game, and I really can't recommend it to you as a form of entertainment. So the all-important question remains, is it worth it? And to my mind, no, not really, no. At its full price of $13, it's not exactly asking a lot, and it does deliver a decent amount of content for its asking price, but this sort of game really did not appeal to me in the least, and while I was able to find some enjoyable moments, overall the game did not impress me overly much. So that's Super Seducer 2 by Richard La Ruina and RLR Training Inc. The RLR stands for Richard La Ruina, big surprise there. And it is available on Steam right now for $13 once its promotional price ends on the 20th. And as always, feel free to let me know what you think down in the comments below. Also, in the description are links to my social media, Discord, and Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the channel, it would mean the world to me if you check those out. No fabulous prizes to be won, but all manner of good feelings. Thank you so much for watching. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I am SidAlpha, and I'll see you next time.